Hi, this is Caitlin. I'm the Community Food Skills Coordinator at the Neighbor to Neighbor Hamilton Community Food Center. I'm at home today, but just wanted to do a quick tutorial on cooking dried beans. So cooking dried beans is actually really easy, and once you get the technique down, you can cook all the beans you need for all your different recipes. What I'm using today are black beans, so I'm just going to show you the dried black beans that I have. And the biggest thing that you have to remember to do for beans is soak them overnight if you're cooking on the stove with a pot, which is what I'm doing. So I soaked these overnight in water, and you can see, hopefully, that they are about doubled in size. So you soak about half the quantity of what you want. And cooking with dried beans is really great because they're easier to store than canned beans, and they're also cheaper than canned beans. So that's really helpful. So what I'm going to do is, now that they've soaked, I'm going to put them into a pot. Some people reuse the water that they soak in, some people don't. They rinse them off and wash them again. It's really up to you. And I'm going to add more water to cover them completely. And I'm just going to turn that on to boil and let that start boiling. And then after it starts boiling, we're going to add a couple things to give it a little bit more flavor. So just while we're waiting for that to boil, I also wanted to talk a little bit about some stuff that I've been thinking about. So I work at the Community Food Center. You know, we do lots of community kitchen programming and the Cooking Up Justice for youth and stuff. And I've been thinking a lot about how we're eating right now during this time when we're all really separated and when things are really, really stressful and we're missing people out of our lives. So maybe this means that we have more time to think about how we're eating and like what the food is that we're eating. But maybe we don't. Maybe the anxiety that we're feeling right now is, and the other emotions are kind of taking precedence over us thinking about our food. Maybe we're eating more absent-mindedly or just snacking more, or which is not bad, and or not thinking about eating regularly. And all of that is really okay, because I think it's really important to acknowledge that there's no one good way to relate to food ever, and particularly not right now, because we're all going through a lot of stuff right now. So I've been trying to ground myself a little bit, and one of the things that I've been trying to think about is this idea of cooking and eating with good intention, which actually comes from some principles that are called traditional food principles that I've been reading and learning a little bit more about. And there are a lot of different traditions of traditional food principles, and the ones that I'm drawing from come from teachings from elders in Medicine Creek Nation and the Traditional Foods of Puget Sound Project, which started in Washington State. So that's a region of Washington State in the United States. And it was compiled, a list of traditional food principles was compiled by these two researchers, Elise Krohn and Valerie Segrist. And I've actually been reading about them in this book, which is going to look backwards on the video. So one of the things that they have as one of these principles is cooking and eating with good intention. And what they really mean by that, or what the elders taught them, people have taught them that means, is that cooking takes time. And that during the time that we're cooking, we have the opportunity to reflect and to think about why we're eating at all, why we're eating the food we're eating, to pay respect for the food, where it comes from, who brought it to us, how it got to our kitchens and to our plates. And food is keeping us alive, and it's giving us a lot of pleasure. So it's really nice to be able to think about and to reflect on it and to take that time. And that's the case even if we're eating, reheating a can of soup, or if we're, eating a bag of chips and not slowly cooking a pot of beans on the stove. So it's all an opportunity for us to take some time and to reflect on our food. And they also talk about the way that cooking and eating with good intention is, it also involves thinking about like how we're eating and who we're eating with, and that's just as important as the cooking process or the nourishment like of the food itself. So taking time to savor our meals, to eat slowly, to digest them, to eat with others, to eat with others who bring us joy. And right now, again, maybe we have time to think about those things, right? Maybe we have time to think about being more intentional and sitting down for our meals and eating with other people and really savoring and digesting the food that we're eating. And maybe we have the opportunity to eat things that we otherwise wouldn't, but also maybe we don't. Maybe right now we don't have people to share meals with, or we don't have the people who we want to share meals with in our lives. We're missing people, friends and family that we'd like to share a meal with, and that can be really sad and it can be really hard. And I think it's important to acknowledge those feelings and to just be real about them. So we're just cooking this pot of beans. I'm showing you how to cook a pot of beans. It doesn't make everything better. It's something that we can share, and it's something, you know, that we can share to think about intentionality, how it might be helping us right now, and how it might not be possible right now, which is also fine. So just as the water is boiling here, so you want to make sure that the beans are fully covered in water for the whole time that they're boiling. You want to bring the water to a full boil and then turn it down to simmer. So simmering is when the water is not like really, really actively boiling, but you can still see bubbles on the surface, right? Like you can still see that it's cooking. Just to cut in quickly, that's what a simmer kind of looks like. And then as once it is simmering, you can start adding some things to it that could give it a little bit extra flavor and help break down the hard beans. So you can add half an onion or a small onion like this guy. You can add some cloves of garlic, or you can add a bay leaf, which is one of these. Bay leaves are really, really lovely for adding flavor, and then all of those things you just remove at the end. So you don't need to chop them up, you just throw them in whole and then you remove them at the end. And then after it's been boiling for a while, you can also add some salt. And that depends on your own taste and how much you want. A little bit of salt can go a really long way. And then once they're done cooking and they're nice and mushy, you can add them to any kind of recipe that you want. So I'm just going to show you what this looks like. So you'll see that it's starting to boil, or it's starting to get hot, and there's a froth developing. The froth is something that you want to remove, so you can scoop it out with one of these guys, a slotted spoon. You can just scoop out some of that froth and put it somewhere else, put it in another container. And then once it's simmering, you just want to keep it simmering, and this is the cooking takes time part, is that beans typically take, if you've soaked them the night before, they typically take on the stove at least an hour, sometimes 2 hours, and then they'll soften up and be ready to use. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I hope I've given you something to think about and also something to reflect on in terms of eating with intention. And we'd also love to know what you guys are doing right now and how you're thinking about sharing food right now, what kind of intentions you're putting into your food right now, and yeah, what kind of recipes you'd like to see us showing or demonstrating for you guys. Okay, thanks for watching.